Okay, so the mission today is to fence in the run-in underneath the barn overhang. We'll film that for you in a minute, show you what that is. But we're trying to make this as modular as we can so we can put it in and take it out, because the horses we find, that we have many horses, need to be dry lighted sometimes or be off the rich grass. So the idea is to give them a little area and not just put them in a stall all the time. And so we'll fence off a little bit of an area, and we'll show you over here in a minute. I'll let you take the camera over and film the area. You can kind of see where the horses are. And we're going to put one board up, because they're minis. We don't need a bunch of boards, about 29 inches off the ground. And the way we're going to do that and make it modular is, the idea was to take a horseshoe, right, and a piece of square tube. This is a 1-inch square open in the tube, and I'll show you what we're going to do with this, because we got the tech guy working on some stuff for the holes, because we have nice bees around here that love to make nests and holes. Anyway, so we're going to weld this piece onto the bottom of this horseshoe, and then that allows for us to be able to slide a board in on this side. And I'll show you how we're going to do that in a minute. I have some true rough cut 1x6 boards that I use for the rest of our fence. Anyway, that's kind of how we're going to do that. So we'll kind of show you how this goes. Okay, holes drilled, U-bolt in, off the paint. Let's go see what the tech guy's doing.
All right, so here I have the cap to prevent bees and other stuff from maybe making a nest in the 1-inch pipe for our 3D printer. So the goal with this is to make it fit tight, not come out. So let's, I have this file, a link to this file in the description, and let's go ahead and get it on the printer. All right, so we got the 3D print off, and it's pretty good. Let's go test it out.
Okay, so this is a trial to make sure that this board will actually work in beside this. So this is the piece we made with the horseshoe and the 1-inch square tube. And it looks like it's maybe a little bit thin, so we may have to put a little spacer behind there. We'll get that taken care of. But this is a true 1x6, and it probably will shrink, so you need to make sure you allow for that. Okay, so we put this against the pole, and we tested it, and we saw that it was literally too tight. But we feel like the board is a pressure-treated board, so it's going to shrink. So what we did is we made a spacer, just a piece of 1/8-inch steel, and we put a spacer back here. I'm not going to weld it on, because when that board shrinks, I want to be able to take it off. So we just put that spacer back there, and we drill holes through those, and then the screws go in. So now on the paint and on to build 5 more.
So I ended up having to print 2 different versions, because this one worked at first, but I had to get a lower profile one, because the screws, there's not enough clearance. But you can see there's holes there, places for a bee or something to make a nest, and when I close this up, there won't be. Hammer that on, fit that on this side, and on to the next one.
We're going to mount this on the post, and we got it painted. We got all the pieces assembled. With the spacer, we're going to mount it on the post, like so. And if it gets it to go in kind of straight, right? Kind of sort of crooked.
That's quicker than I've ever seen it put in.
Like that.
You did good.
There we go. Make sure it's good and tight. And there we go. All right, so we have, at the end, we don't have a post. Well, we got a post. But the board is lower than the post by the time we get over here. So we got to go into this concrete piece down here. And the way to do that is I'm going to be using these Tapcon screws. And the way you use a Tapcon screw is you drill a pilot hole, and then these grooves in this screw will lock into the concrete. So the idea is to hold this up so that we can get a good hole right there. We'll go in. Like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and put one in to make sure we get the hole right for the second one, and we'll get it all lined up. Hold this up. And let's see if this works, shall we? Obviously, as you get this in here close, you're going to want to make sure it's good and square. Now, let's go ahead and get the other hole drilled for the second screw. I did mark the depth. One thing they said with Tapcon screws is make sure you get the depth right, because I guess it drives some of the concrete back in the hole, and you need to leave room for that back in the back. I guess it compresses it. So, and do this. We're going to get it in here most of the way, right? You see it move there. Because I don't know that we're going to be able to undo that if it's a little too tight. So, there it is. All right, so we got the boards in, and we marked the center of the horseshoe piece that we have, and we're going to cut on that line as where the center of the horseshoe is for the first piece. And we'll do that for every one of these. And so if I hold that straight edge on like that, I really can cut a really straight, almost like a miter cut when I do this cut. Okay, here goes. All right, so we got the board super tight in these pieces, and we want to be able to lift them out. So I'm going to take my planer and plane this edge of the board down a little bit so that we can lift it in and out easier. And then if it shrinks, we'll be able to tighten it up later. Okay, so we wrapped it up here. We finished the last board. We made it so we could lift out easily. As you can see now, this lifts up so that you can come in and out. You can let the horses in and out if you want to. The rest of them are modular. They will come out, but it needs a little bit of shrinkage on these boards. Other than that, you can see it gives a nice area for the horse to wander in here. You could obviously do more than one of these if you wanted to kind of make it modular and close this off. But we only had to do one because of the size of the horse. So we obviously have them down right now, the boards that were up for this. We don't need them in the fall. I found out the horses are good right now, so we let them out in the pasture because the grass isn't quite as rich for the minis. But anyway, we created this because they got really smart. They were lifting the board up and then being able to get in and out. So we made a clip out of wood first, just kind of make sure it was going to work. And this would hold the board in place, as you can remember and see. And then we actually 3D modeled one and made a 3D print to make more of them. And this is what the 3D print one looks like. And we can actually share that 3D print with you if you wanted to. Also, I think minis are one thing. Obviously, you can keep the board down here. You may need to do two if it's a larger horse. Obviously, minis aren't quite as big as you can see. However, they did get smarter as we went along. So they learned how to flip these up. So you have to tighten them down. And then they also learned how to chew on them and break them. So we've actually made them stronger. And I would recommend, this is just out of PLA, probably getting a harder material such as, you know, either PLA Plus, which we didn't yet print on these because we don't need it right now. Or you could even use something like a harder material. What's the harder material there, buddy?
PETG.
PETG. Of course, well, the PETG we have is orange, and that's not approved for the horse barn here because of the color mixture.
The life approval factor was low.
It was a very low approval factor, so we didn't use the orange for that purpose. These did work. It kept them from lifting up. It's just this little one right here that you saw come by got to where he was biting them or flipping them up, and I think it was curiosity a little bit. But we could actually make more of this. But anyway, that's kind of how we ended this. Right now we don't need it, so we kind of just finished this project and we're going to move on to the next one. So on to the next project.